hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Okay, my big muscular friend, I saw you the other night on Jimmy Kimmel.
It all started with one of the most shocking moments late-night TV has seen in years. Jimmy Kimmel took the stage, ready to deliver one of his trademark political jokes, but the timing couldn't have been worse. Just days earlier, conservative activist Charlie Kirk had passed away, leaving family, friends, and supporters in mourning. And then Kimmel delivered a line that, instead of landing as clever humor, came across as cold, heartless, and completely out of touch. Viewers didn't laugh, they erupted. Social media instantly lit up with outrage. People across the political spectrum were calling the joke tasteless and insensitive. Even those who didn't always agree with Kirk said, "This isn't right. Show some respect." Within hours, what should have been just another late-night monologue became a nationwide controversy. Late-night comedy is supposed to lighten the mood, not add fuel to the fire of grieving families. But Kimmel's words did exactly the opposite. Suddenly, the man who had been a staple of American television for over 2 decades was facing accusations of being heartless, arrogant, and disconnected from his audience. The fallout was immediate. ABC couldn't ignore the storm. Within a day, the network announced that Jimmy Kimmel Live would be suspended indefinitely. No timeline for return, no guarantees, just a complete shutdown. For a show that had been a cornerstone of late night TV for over 20 years, this was like a bomb going off in Hollywood. Fans tuning in were left staring at an empty time slot, while behind the scenes, panic was spreading across a BC office's dot, and it didn't stop there. One of the most scathing responses came from Nexstar Media Group, which owns many ABC affiliates nationwide. Their public statement didn't hold back, calling Kimmel's joke offensive and insensitive, and declaring that airing his show was no longer in the public interest. This wasn't a gentle warning, it was a public rebuke from within his own network family. For the first time in his career, the late-night king looked vulnerable. His reputation, his relevance, even his throne, everything was suddenly in question. But to truly understand why this hit so hard, we need to rewind to years earlier, to Kimmel's bad blood with Sylvester Stallone. Stallone had been scheduled to appear on Kimmel's show to promote The Family Stallone and Tulsa King. For fans, this was a big deal. Stallone rarely does late-night interviews. But the appearance was canceled. Reports surfaced that Kimmel pushed ABC to drop Stallone over political differences, turning a professional opportunity into a personal conflict. And he didn't stop there. On air, Kimmel took the chance to mock Stallone's. Jimmy Kimmel faced massive backlash after turning a lighthearted comedy segment into a personal dig at Sylvester Stallone. Fans weren't laughing, many saw it as condescending and disrespectful. Social media exploded with hashtags like #CancelKimmel and #RespectStallone trending within hours. Comments called it bitterness disguised as a joke, and the public debate quickly split sides. Stallone, the hardworking Hollywood legend, versus Kimmel, the host who let politics overshadow humor. The fallout was swift. Clips of the segment went viral. Critics slammed Kimmel, and media outlets argued this was why audiences were tuning out late-night TV. Ratings for Jimmy Kimmel Live plunged sharply, alarming ABC executives and advertisers alike. The show was already struggling against podcasts, YouTube creators, and on-demand content. Now the pressure intensified. ABC scrambled, offering Stallone rare, unrestricted airtime and potential future collaborations to mend the situation. But Stallone refused. This wasn't about making peace, it was damage control. For Kimmel, a single bad joke had evolved into a full-blown crisis, threatening both ratings and reputation. This episode shows how quickly public, Opinion can turn, and the real consequences of crossing the line, even for established late-night hosts. Jimmy Kimmel found himself in the middle of one of the biggest controversies of his career. What started as an on-air joke mocking Sylvester Stallone quickly escalated into a full-blown backlash. Viewers weren't laughing. What should have been light-hearted comedy came across as insults. The tone, condescending, dismissive, and mean-spirited. Fans who had admired Stallone for decades felt their hero was being disrespected. Not entertained, social media erupted almost immediately. Kimmel's name was trending for all the wrong reasons. Hashtags like #RespectStallone and #FireKimmel flooded Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Clips of the segment went viral, but instead of humor, viewers saw arrogance. One post summed it up perfectly. You don't mock a man who's spent decades inspiring millions. The public sided with Stallone, seeing him as a Hollywood legend built on grit, resilience, and respect. Kimmel, by contrast, looked petty and overly political. The feud wasn't just online media critics called it an example of why audiences were tuning out of late-night shows. For many, this incident became a larger conversation about what late-night TV had become. Political lectures and personal attacks disguised as comedy. For ABC, the stakes were high. Ratings for Jimmy Kimmel Live dropped sharply, advertisers grew nervous, and high-profile guests began saying no. Executives scrambled to contain the fallout. They even offered Stallone unfiltered airtime and future collaboration, but he declined. To Stallone, this wasn't about reconciliation, it was about principle. Fans praised him for standing his ground, signaling that he didn't need Kimmel's stage, but Kimmel needed Stallone. The situation highlighted a stark contrast. Stallone embodied decades of dedication, toughness, and dignity, while Kimmel appeared to have let arrogance overshadow comedy. Memes flooded the internet comparing Stallone's legacy to Kimmel's decline. One viral post showed Stallone running through his iconic Rocky montage next to an unflattering Kimmel shot, captioned, "Stallone inspires millions." Kimmel inspires channel changing. This feud also reflected larger trends in entertainment. Audiences had already been drifting away from traditional late-night TV, moving to platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and podcasts. People craved authenticity over rehearsed political commentary. Hosts like Greg Gutfeld were topping ratings because they kept content entertaining and relatable, not lecture-heavy. Stallone adapted by choosing platforms where his voice was genuinely welcomed. Other stars, including Zachary Levi and James Woods, began distancing themselves from legacy media, criticizing Hollywood's obsession with politics and bias. Independent creators proved that authenticity was winning over scripted agendas. Kimmel's downfall, however, was not sudden. Ratings had been slipping for years. Viewers were already tired of long political monologues, preferring light-hearted entertainment and interactive content. By the time Kimmel made the offensive joke, his reputation was already shaky. The Stallone incident was the tipping point, accelerating what was inevitable. In the end, this feud became about more than one joke. It was a story of respect versus ridicule, authenticity versus arrogance, and how audiences now dictate the narrative. Stallone emerged as the clear winner, while Kimmel's late-night kingdom began to crumble. This moment marks a shift in entertainment. Late-night TV is no longer dominated by scripted hosts with rehearsed monologues. Audiences now reward authenticity, credibility, and respect. And in this battle, Stallone showed the world that integrity still matters, while Kimmel learned that even decades of fame can't protect you from public accountability. If you enjoyed this story, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think truly won this feud? And what does it say about the future of late-night TV? Click the video on the screen for more insights, and we'll see you in the next one.